Tree Talking Time is brought to you by Conkey's Outdoors and Stone Creek Hound Supply. Be sure to check them out for all your hound hunting needs. Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest feists to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game. How's the squirrel hunting been?
Honestly, been turkey hunting.
Okay.
Have been doing a lot of that. This year with the baby, I told the wife that I wasn't going to be traveling as much.
Yeah.
So kind of just went to the PA hunts and a couple in Ohio.
Okay.
But didn't really travel too much. And then Willow was getting old, so I didn't really put a ton of miles on her as much as I had been.
I understand. A lot of what we talked about when you came out for that first hunt over here, we were riding around in the truck and you were telling me the story of Willow and all that. That's kind of what I want to hear. Like, I think it's a pretty cool story.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, she's been good for what she was and the story behind it. She's been really good to me, so I can't
exactly. There's guys that purposely go get dogs and don't get half of what you have with her,
Yeah, I mean, I've been beyond lucky.
A lot of people will enjoy that story.
Absolutely. I'll try to elaborate it on as much as I can.
Yeah, but you don't have to start there. We can start wherever you want.
Okay. My name is Joe Seaburn from Western Pennsylvania. Do a little bit of dabbling and filming as well. My Instagram and YouTube are Whisper in the Wind Outdoors. It's kind of more or less a hobby when I get some free time or get some extra time to film. Like putting a little bit of content out or some pictures out. I've always enjoyed filming or taking some nice pictures. But I also like the idea of being able to preserve those memories and stuff like that along those lines.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to look back and pretty much tell the story for you instead of having to think about what happened. You can pretty much show that and it says it all. And I mean, you have talked about before, I kind of try to do a 4 to 5 day squirrel series every year that kind of depicts the way that I train usually every year to get Willow in competition shape. And it kind of shows the general public or somebody that may not really have ever even heard of hunting with squirrel dogs how it is, or just bring to light that it is a thing. Because I, for one, did not know squirrel hunting with a dog was a thing until I started meeting some people. And I tell people, I joke about it. I thought I was onto something whenever I started training her, because a little bit of the backstory was looking for a dog and ended up finding one on Craigslist because like I said, I wasn't privy to the NFC Facebook group, the Squirrel Dog Hunter group, USDC, all that stuff, and was just looking on Craigslist for a dog and stumbled upon this. I think at the time it was I think a 12 to 16 month old blue tick.
Okay.
In Cleveland, and I was like, all right. I told the guy, like, I'll be there to get it on this date. And the morning of that I was supposed to go pick it up, I messaged the guy because Cleveland's about 2.5 hours away. Was like, hey, we still good? I'll make a trip up today when I get a chance. He was like, oh, I sold the dog yesterday. And I was like, I was mad. Just the way that I am. I don't tell somebody I'm going to do something if I'm not intending on do it, pending an emergency or something along those lines. But kept looking and ended up talking to this female on Craigslist. He said she had a litter of blue tick puppies out towards Columbus, Ohio. So a lot of them were pretty the dad was, I think, Gaskin,
Okay.
and mom was what I think to be English based off the pictures,
Mm-hmm.
but she was selling them as a blue tick pup, which to the general public and to me at the time had no idea like all the in depth of the breeds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But sent me a couple pictures of the puppies, and a lot of them just didn't look healthy or even in the slightest way like something that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And she sent me this picture of the tricolored one, and I was like, I do like that one. I like the look of it. That's the one that I like. And she was like, you can come get it, $100.
There you
I
go.
was like, all right. And this was when I was getting out of the police academy. So I think it was a day before. Yeah, it was definitely the day before I graduated the police academy. Took a drive out and met. I think it might have been the husband at his work site, and they had the dog in a like a construction trailer. So he took me in, and this thing was just covered in fleas.
Oh, geez.
Had like skin showing, like skin and bones. It was not healthy whatsoever. And I like looked at him, and I was like, I don't want this thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not healthy. It's not taken care of. This is not the pictures that you showed me. And I was talking to my now wife, and she was like, we have to take it. We have to get it. It's not healthy. We drove all this way. Like, we can't just leave it here. It's not gonna make it. So we got it.
So she talks you into rescuing this dog from some deplorable
Pretty much
living
what it,
conditions.
yeah, pretty much is what it turned out to be. We rescued this dog, and come to find out, so like it was really flaky after the fact, and I, like I said, I didn't have the knowledge that I have now after meeting people and talking to people, but the lady told me that she had papers, which I'm not a big paper guy. Like, it doesn't mean anything to me. If it's gonna tree, it's gonna tree. But she was like, I'll send them out to you, and I wasn't trying to be pushy or mean or anything, but continually asked for like a month span, and finally it never happened, and I never got them or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I talked to this lady a couple times after because she checked in here and there to see how the dog was doing, and come to find out after the fact that she had been keeping, which is it's not uncommon, but she'd been keeping the puppies in a barn, and I guess all of the siblings that she still had for sale passed away within the following 2 weeks after
Oh,
I had
geez.
bought Willow. I guess the mom ran away and she never found it. And then I don't really know what happened, but I'm pretty sure I ended up getting blocked or deleted on Facebook or something like that after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, just me, and I like keeping up with stuff, and Willow turned out to be more than I ever expected.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just asking her like what the bloodlines were and stuff like that, and then one day the profile was no longer there. So I don't know if she just sold me the dog thinking, either it was going to pass or I really don't know the backstory. But
Mm-hmm.
all in all, it was pretty much. I laughed because like Willow wouldn't have made it over 10 weeks old if I hadn't actually got her. But then got her back, and I got her all cleaned up, got the fleas off of her, and dewormed her, and pretty much made her what a normal puppy should be at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my first, actually, two police jobs. I was working part time at two different agencies at the time, and was mainly working night turn.
Okay.
So couldn't really coon hunt at that point because I was straight out of college in the academy trying to make ends meet for the most part, and
Mm-hmm.
two part-time jobs back then was still the way police works is anything under 40 hours is considered part-time.
Okay.
So what they do is they'll put you on for like 36 hours a week just so they don't have to pay you full-time benefits.
Jeez.
So I was working 70 hours a week,
Mm-hmm.
whether between two jobs, working 3 to 11 at night turn. So couldn't really coon hunt, but I wanted a hunting dog. So my dad, I was just talking to him, and he and I always small game hunt together and squirrel hunt together. He was like, well, why don't you just train her to tree squirrels? It's the same thing as she's a coon dog. She's bred to tree.
Yeah.
It's just a different scent. So I was like, that's a good idea. Like, you're onto something here. And
like you said, without having any knowledge that squirrel dogs were even a thing.
had no idea whatsoever. And I ended up trapping a squirrel. I just put peanut butter or peanuts or crackers in a box trap and ended up catching one. And the first time I showed it to her, she was just I don't even know how old she was at that point, maybe 3-4 months. And by the time I showed her, cause I did like a lot of obedience stuff first and whatnot. Because it's not like I don't consider myself a dog trainer. I've really only had one competition dog, and even at that, I haven't had another one since. But growing up, we had a black lab that was an all around great dog for pheasant, and I wouldn't say it was a squirrel dog, but it was a squirrel dog by sight, I guess you could say.
Okay.
If you were walking through the woods and you saw a squirrel, it would chase it to the tree. It wouldn't bark or anything like that, but just sit there and look up.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like an all-around meat dog for the most part, mainly pheasant. And me and my dad trained a lot of beagles. We really enjoyed beagle hunting for a long time when I was growing up in high school. But the first time I showed her that caged squirrel, she was just absolutely mortified, like wanted nothing to do with it. The squirrel was obviously worked up, so it was banging around in the cage, but I let the squirrel go and kind of just like put her on the leash and drug her over the track to the tree and didn't really want anything to do with it. I remembered when we were training rabbit dogs when I was a kid that if you couldn't get one to open up or bark or show any interest, what you would do was just release the rabbit in the middle of a field so the dog saw it, and that usually triggered the response to bark when it was chasing it.
Yeah.
So I did that on our farm, and there was like one oak tree in the middle of the farm. And I did that probably around like 50 yards out, let it go, and she drove, by sight, drove it and went nuts and ended up treeing. And let her do that for a while, and then kind of started walking her through the woods.
How old was she when you did that?
I probably started teaching her around like 4 to 5 months, I'd say, like really honing in on like once a day, taking her to like a feeder or like a park or something like that and just showing her what a squirrel was.
Okay.
And I remember, actually, it's funny you brought that up because I think I remember the first time I really started like doing it maybe 5 days a week, trying to get her to learn what she was doing. I took her to the local park, and the first time she saw a squirrel just sitting in the middle of the pasture or whatever, and she chased the squirrel, and when it went up the tree, she just kept running past. And she stopped on a dime, like 20 yards past the tree, and was just like looking at me. She couldn't figure out where the squirrel went.
Yeah.
And that's when I tried to just bring her back to the tree and get the scent aspect of it. And I remember it was probably around 6 months. I was walking through the woods, and she had never treated a squirrel on her own at that point. And I still remember it to this day, like the exact tree and everything. And she was probably only 50, 75 yards out in front of me, and she erupted, just went absolutely nuts, huge to locate. And I was like, that's weird. Like I didn't see anything. Like I can see right in front of me. And I looked up, and there was a fox squirrel going up a tree.
There you go.
I just got a big smile on my face. I tied her up and let her bark. I probably honestly probably sat there. Like looking back, wasn't the best idea, but probably sat there for like 20 minutes just listening to her bark because I was so excited. But from there on out, she I don't think she maybe like treed on and off, but I'd say probably around the 8 month point to like 9 months, maybe even closer to a year is when I think she really turned it on. My grandfather owns almost 200 acres, so I was usually my go-to spot of
Yeah.
training her because there were so many squirrels there. I remember it was closer to January time frame because there was snow on the ground, and me and my dad went for a hunt, and I think she treed a limit that day,
Nice.
and I was like, that's the first day she really really turned it on. And in the meantime of all this going on, I think because the way that I operate is when I try to focus on something or learn something, I kind of go overboard sometimes. And I just remember looking up online like how to train a tree dog and stuff
Okay.
like that.
Hmm.
And that's when I think in the process of that, I stumbled onto a website. It was called, I think, Squirrel. Can't remember. Squirrel Dog Central, I think it might have been.
Yep.
And I posted on there one time because I had a question. Like I was still learning. I said the dog was like sniffing a tree and would like get down and check and come back and then just take off and come back. And I couldn't tell like if that was what it was supposed to be doing or what. And I think I posted and said I was in Western PA. I said if anybody has any tips or has a dog that wants to get together, I would love to learn a little bit more. And that's when I started talking to a guy named James Landon,
Okay.
a little bit north of me, and I went out with his dog a couple times. And good dog, looked amazing, taught me a lot of things about how he did and whatnot. And that's when he was telling me that there was competitions and stuff like that. And I think that was the year that his dog Rusty won the WTDA PA state championship.
Okay.
And there, he was telling me more about the NSD hunts, and this probably would have been around 2016, 2017. Yeah, it's probably 2017.
Hmm.
And I actually went to my first NSD hunt in Hadley, and I drew out with. Funny enough, I drew out with James Landon and then Dan.
Okay.
But that was our first round cast, and this was the time where I mean they were probably making fun. Looking back and knowing them now, they were probably making fun of me and saying all kinds of things about Willow because, like, I think I didn't even know the rules. I just kind of went, and in my mind, I was like, at that point when I took her to the competition, I was like, I could take her out and she'll tree a squirrel almost any time, and I was still naive in the fact of knowing what squirrel dog hunting was and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, how many dogs are there really out there that are doing this? And I think it was Dan's dog Hawk and James' dog Rusty at the time, and they just put on a squirrel treeing clinic.
That's funny.
And I think Willow ended up treeing one, but she, like I said, I didn't really even know what I was doing, and I think she took like 2 minuses, and she did tree a squirrel, but those dogs were beyond what I had ever seen before or even knew existed.
Hmm.
And from there, I kind of just I was like, I want to see what she can do, and I really honed in on spending a ton of time training her and focusing on the competition aspect of how I train her. And I think around like when she was probably two, maybe 2.5, closer to 3, is when she started. I think she won her first NSD hunt, and I kept going with it.
Conkey's Outdoors is proud to be a sponsor of Tree Talking Time. Family, hunting, tradition is the Conkey's motto. They understand the importance of passing down the tradition of hound hunting. They are a family-owned business that treats you like family. They also understand the importance of having the gear you need when you need it. Conkey's carries everything for your next hunt, and it ships to your door quick. They also offer great warranties on all tracking systems and financing options. Check them out at conkeys.com. You can also use the code TreeTalkingTime5 in all caps to save as well.
Looking back, I tell people at the time, I didn't even trust her. Like, I knew what she could do, but she was still young, and I would take her to these hunts, and she'd have her days where she looked great, and then she'd have her days where just made me look like an idiot.
Yeah.
And
I think they all do that.
oh yeah, that's the thing. That there's days where they'll make you look like a genius or make you look like an idiot. There's no in between sometimes. But then, like, looking back, it's probably around, like, I don't know, the 4 to 5 year old mark. I felt like when she was on, she was everything I could have asked of her, and that's when I really started.
Okay.
A lot of people made fun of me because I was waking up no matter what, no matter where the closest hunt was, for probably 3 years I was going.
Yeah.
Didn't matter where it was. And I mean, Danville or that Auburn club is 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I was driving 6 hours to Kentucky, 6 hours to Tennessee, 5 hours in Michigan.
Yeah.
The Hadley Club is the closest club to me in Pennsylvania, and it was at the time where I was living a little over an hour. But Ryan Clancy also has that club in Jefferson,
mm-hmm.
and that's now for me it's only about an hour and 40 minutes. But at the time it was a little over 2 hours, and there's some other clubs in Ohio that were 3 to 4 hours away.
Yeah, but we're not. West PA in general is not a hot spot for NSD hunts. I mean, competition hunts in general, but especially NSD. So,
yeah, absolutely. There's not many clubs around. It's not like the Kentucky or Tennessee area where you have multiple clubs in a couple hour radius. But yep. Everybody's making fun of me because I was waking up at midnight, getting her ready and getting dressed and out the door by 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, trying to make a 7 a.m. deadline.
Yeah.
But she made squirrel champion, and at that point, that's when I felt like she was kind of hitting her groove, and it took a little under a year, I think, to get her into grand squirrel champion. And at that point, I think there was maybe only I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I'd say maybe 10 dogs that were in the NSD Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And I said she was only I think she was 5 years old at that point when she made grand. And I said, that's something that I really want to do. Like, the way that she's operating right now, I'm happy with her. I can take her pretty much anywhere and thinking that I have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And there hasn't been many hunts over the years where she's got flat out annihilated. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's so many good dogs out there right now, hunting every week with people like Dean Wright and Tom Smith and
yep.
Ryan Clancy, Dan. Like, if you draw a dog, odds are it's done a lot of winning around here. And
mm-hmm.
that Cleo for Tom Smith, and he's had Bailey and all them dogs, that they put a whooping on me a lot of times. And I told Tom, and I talked to him regularly, but I've told him I can pretty much handle. I could run a cast by myself with Willow and Cleo because I know I've hunted with her so many times. I know exactly what she's doing, and same with like a lot of other guys. We hunt together so often that
mm-hmm.
I can tell you exactly what their dog's doing, just like they know it off the back of their hand. But
yep.
We've got the break speed off of us time and time again, but more often than not, I'd say there hasn't been too many hunts where it's been out of reach, or she hasn't given me a chance to win at least. And she's pulled a lot of hunts out of nowhere. And I know Dan and a lot of other people make fun of me because she will tree. She'll go and tree a squirrel, but there's a lot of squirrels that you'll cut loose and she'll get treed 10 yards in front of you. And you're like, there's no way there's anything there. Like, all these dogs just ran past that tree. It's a junk tree. And then you'll go search time and see a squirrel sitting there plain as day. It's just funny sometimes. I'll just sit there and laugh. But like I said, she's given me a chance to win a lot of times, and that was when I felt like she was kind of hitting her groove. That's why I really was traveling a lot. But I don't believe that it was no, it was not the hunt that you and I were at. She ended up getting second in that hunt. Dan and his dog at night had beat us in the finals. But I think it was that next hunt out there at Auburn that she ended up winning the hunt.
Okay.
And that was the hunt that put her into the NSC Hall of Fame.
Nice.
And even that hunt, we got in the finals, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. It was an older gentleman. He had a yellow cur.
Barry.
Yes, Barry.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might have been his son that was handling him in the finals, and
probably
it was. I don't. It was probably 40-mile-an-hour wind. It was not good at all. And we cut loose, and his dog sunk in there right away. Like, went 200 yards in there, treed a squirrel. And I texted Dan, and I was like, we lost. I was like, there's no way that we're going to find another squirrel the rest of this cast. And cut again, and Willow sunk in there and treed a squirrel. And I was like, okay, we're back. We got a chance now. And we cut again. And I think at this point, with an hour cast in the finals, there might have only been maybe 15 minutes left of the hunt. And both dogs went in there maybe 100 yards, and they were messing around right in front of us. And the other gentleman hurried up and treated his dog, and I just kind of let it sit. I was waiting for I knew Willow was there, but there was no point in treating her right away. Well, we saw the other dog come kind of running left-handed and took a minus. Well, Willow was still sitting there. I was like, well, he took the minus. I'm going to tree Willow. I treated her. We walked in, and there was a squirrel there. So virtually that put me up 2 squirrels at that point with 15 minutes left, and kind of just rode out the rest of the way.
Nice.
And ended up winning that hunt. And kind of just ever since then, I think 2 years ago, I kind of pushed her pretty hard. Well, and I did continue to hunt her in PA and Ohio for the most part. And last year, 2 years ago now, well, I guess it was last year, technically the 2022 season, because the 2024 season hasn't started yet. But 2022 season, she was Pennsylvania Dog of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And then again this year, I was really worried. I had a family emergency in, I think, September, which didn't, obviously, family stuff comes first. I wasn't able to make the September Hadley hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another hunt in Auburn in September, and that was the weekend that I was on vacation in Montana. So at that point, I had already missed 2 Pennsylvania hunts, so I kind of figured there was no coming back at that point.
Yeah.
Well, then that last Auburn hunt last year got canceled because I think, I know out here we got about a foot of snow, and it was 5 degrees outside, and I know they canceled that hunt as well.
Yeah.
That was pretty much 3 hunts in Pennsylvania that I didn't get a chance at, but the hunts that Willow was in PA, she was either first or second in all of them. And then it came down to the final PA hunt of the season in February, and that was probably one of the best casts I've ever been on in a long time, at least, because I think it was 2-dog cast with me and Dan and his dog Oneida.
That's what I was gonna say. Was it you and Oneida? Willow and Oneida battling it out.
Yeah, it was Willow and Oneida, and I think the final score of that hunt was Willow had 400 plus and 300 circle, and Oneida had 400 plus and 200 circle.
Oh wow, that's close.
So, and even funnier, me and Dan are good friends. We talk all the time, and
yeah,
we were going by the rules, but there was a lot of times where we were just like kind of being generous, I guess you could say, not being strict about kind of winning the hunt. I mean, handlers can win the hunt themselves, but we were just letting the dogs do their thing.
Yeah.
Well, there was maybe 2 minutes left in the hunt, and Oneida was treed, and I got Willow cut loose. So we're walking to Oneida, and Willow falls off short of Oneida, maybe by like 50 yards. So we're walking in, and Dan goes, "I got the squirrel." And I like looked at him, and I was like, I was laughing because just the way that it happened, it was the word. I'm trying to think of the word for it. It was just comical how the dog got in there and got treed.
Mm-hmm.
But Dan was like looking at me. He's like, "I got the squirrel," and I looked at it and saw it, and I was laughing because I was like, "You got me beat." I shook his hand. I said, "Congratulations," because at that point, I knew obviously I wanted to win the hunt, but I knew with having 400 or at that point it was 300 plus in the first round. I was like, I'm pretty confident that she'll be third or fourth and still be able to gather enough points to win the state race that year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Willow was only 50 yards behind us at that point, and this big knotty tree, 10 holes in it, only 15 feet tall.
Oh, geez.
And we're walking back, and I see the holes in it. I was like, it's over. I'm going to just look real quick and call it a day. Dan won. Congratulations. And I look up the tree, and I see the tail sticking out the side. And I look at Dan, and I said, "Not so fast." And his head just sunk. He started laughing. He was like, "That's one of those ones where you just don't expect her to have it, and she has it." But that was one of the best casts I've been on in a while, and that ended up obviously making it to the finals, secured her enough points to have PA Dog of the Year, and
nice.
I was happy about that. That'll be 2 years in a row she was that, plus with the Hall of Fame title, and was never lucky enough to accumulate enough points to be NSD Dog of the Year, but she was reserve Dog of the Year 1 year. Okay. I think she got third place another year. So
I knew she was up there a couple times.
Yeah, there was. I think it might have been 2022. She was reserve Dog of the Year behind Tom Smith and Cleo.
Yeah.
And another year she was third behind. I think at that point Tom was hunting Bailey, and I can't remember the other dog who got second that year.
Okay.
But yeah, she's been really good to me, and her and I took the trip down. We go down to Land Between the Lakes every year for the World Hunt, and
yeah,
I knew with her getting old, this or next year probably might be the last year that her and I make that trip, because I've been wanting to get another puppy and start something new, and I know she's getting old. There's a lot of times where.
How old is she?
She'll be 8 in September.
Okay.
So there's a lot of times now, for like the last 2 years, I'm not really sure what the technical diagnosis is, but if I put like a day on her, like if I do like an actual squirrel hunt with me and my dad or something like that, or I run her too hard, she'll limp for a day or two.
Okay.
And I'm pretty confident that she has arthritis in her shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
But we went down to Land Between the Lakes this year, and I told Dan was supposed to drive down with me or ride down with me, and some stuff came up for him. He wasn't able to make it, but finally got down there, and I went to one of my spots. So cut her loose. I said I was only going to make. I didn't want to tire her out. I didn't want to do nothing. Just wanted to let her stretch her legs after driving 9 hours.
Yeah.
Cut her loose, and she went like 70 yards and treed. And I was like, "That's I can't really tell if I like this or not yet."
Yeah.
But in there, and she had a squirrel. I was like, okay. And just me being me, I was dumb, and I was like, I'm going to cut her loose one more time. And then she went like another 50 yards and had another squirrel. And I was like, I wanted to enjoy that moment because she was clicking at the moment, but
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't want to tire her out, and I know better because I know if I say one last cut, that's what she's going to go a mile, and I'm going to have to go walk to her. But luckily, I think she sunk in there like another 400 or 500 and treed and had another squirrel, and I was like, all right, that's it, we're done. I
Yeah.
was like, that's it. I'm gonna walk back. We'll call it a night. But drew out with two nice dogs the next day, and first round of the world hunt. Willow, right out of the truck, treed a squirrel, and the weather wasn't ideal, but the spot that I went to and guided was a pretty nice spot. I felt pretty confident that we would treat a couple squirrels at least in there, and
Mm-hmm.
dogs made some trees back and forth, just den trees, and I think with about 15 minutes left, I still had the lead, and other guy's dog went in there and got treed, and we walked in there and started the search time and searched for about 4 minutes, didn't see nothing, and then he pulled out his thermal and he actually found the squirrel probably like 56 feet from the tree, and with the NSD rules, it has to be within 60 feet.
Yep.
So we plussed it up, and on circle points, he was beating me at that time. Well, no sooner we saw that squirrel, I heard Willow just erupt maybe about 150, 200 yards away. And I felt pretty good about it, the way that she came onto the tree.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that sounds like she should have a squirrel there. We're walking in, and I see her treed, and I see a nest in the tree. So I kind of was like, yeah, it might not be great. But then I saw a grapevine coming out of the nest, and I said, we should be good. She usually doesn't lie to me like that. If she trees on a nest with a grapevine right there, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be able to shake this out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, walk in there, and I give one shake on that grapevine, and it breaks.
Jeez.
So that was pretty much that demoralized me pretty good, not being able to get to that nest. And I mean, I can Monday morning quarterback it all day, but looking back the way that she came onto it, I'm pretty confident that there was a squirrel in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is, and I was I sat in my sorrows for a little bit on the way home, but was able to still just enjoy the hunt
Yeah.
and take that trip with her. And I told everybody, I was like, I enjoy taking those trips with her, and people make fun of me too because I probably spend more time with that dog than anybody else. But like I said, she's been great to me. I don't have the list of accomplishments. Like I said, I'm kind of a stickler for keeping track of things and stats and whatnot. But there was a period of time where I was actually keeping track of every time that I took her out, the amount of trees that she made, where I was, how many squirrels I saw, all that kind of stuff. And I did that for a while, keeping track of everything. But
Mm-hmm.
off the top of my head, I know she's had a couple NSD state championships, a couple reserve NSD state championships. She's won that WTDA Grand Nationals twice, I think.
Okay.
Won the WTDA PA State Hunt twice, I think. Was third at the WTDA World 2 years ago.
Nice.
That was a good hunt. I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
like I said, back to back PA Dog of the Year the last couple of years. So
She has racked up quite a few accomplishments, that's for sure.
yeah, she's been great to me. And I said once I got her in the Hall of Fame, I was going to dial it back and just focus on Pennsylvania. And she's done good in Pennsylvania the last 2 years, being back to back Dog of the Year. So,
Hmm.
like I said, she doesn't owe me nothing. When she was younger, I've had a couple people try to buy her, and I that would never wouldn't go over well. I'll tell you that. And uh, she she'll die here. So
Yeah.
she sleeps in bed at night with me. She's goes pretty much everywhere with me. And if I'm sitting on the couch watching TV, she's usually sitting right at my feet. So she's been my best friend for almost 8 years now, and
Hmm.
spent a ton of time with her.
Yeah, for sure. Stone Creek Hound Supply, a family-operated business, boasts over 50 years of involvement in hounds. For over 2 decades, they've been dedicated to supplying high-quality hound gear. Their reputation is founded on unparalleled quality and exceptional customer service. Crafted from U.S. source materials, Stone Creek clothing is meticulously manufactured right here in Pennsylvania. Through their commitment to excellence, many of their customers have become lifelong friends. Being a blue tick and everything, how does she hunt, like style wise? How deep? And you said you kept track of a lot of things. So how accurate is she? You hear these stories of these. Well, especially now, you see a lot of walkers in these hunts and stuff, and you hear about slick tree and just tree happy. With the squirrel hunts, it's real easy to circle stuff, unlike coon hunts. So,
Yeah.
What's Willow's style? Being a blue tick, what's that look like?
So I would say she is not fast by any stretch of the imagination. She's not going to cut off the lead at 20 miles an hour and be treed 500 yards in a matter of a minute. That's not her.
Okay.
She she's going to beat bop around a little bit. Um, being she's always done it, but it's gotten worse the last couple of years. But she will work off of other dogs. Um, Not necessarily. I mean, she will. She'll back another dog. That's one habit where I don't have the luxury of having another dog to be able to really hone in on breaking that.
Hmm.
But when I was really pushing her, I was hunting with Dan and Ryan a lot to get her with another dog to be able to try to break that. And there were certain stretches where she would go months without going to another dog, and then the next hunt she'd be with another dog the entire time.
Hmm.
So it was just on and off, which that was one thing that I've always said I wanted to break. And I said, she's a lazy hunter. It is what it is. I'll call it how I see it. She's not going to blow through the woods. She's not going to go get treed. And I said, I'll say it all the time. I feel like if she just went, like if there was no brakes on her, all gas, and she just went until she got treed, I think she would have done a lot of damage. I really do, because she's fairly accurate. But like I said, she'll work off other dogs. And I've said it, and other people have told me too. And I had a guy I hunted with this year. He pretty much told me straight up. He was like, "There's a lot of things I don't like about that dog, but I'll give her one thing." He said, if your dog trees and it misses, you're screwed, because Willow will be split treed with that squirrel.
Hmm.
And I don't know if she has a little bit of a colder nose, so maybe working colder tracks, she's able to divert the scent a little bit better.
Yeah.
But that is one thing I will say about her. If another dog trees and it does not have the squirrel, and that squirrel's outside of 60 feet, she's going to be the one getting the points.
Nice.
She is good about that. She's pretty accurate. And to answer your question, I mean, it kind of varies hunting with the leaves on and with the leaves off.
Oh yeah.
I think like my year, probably from 20, I don't know, I'll just hypothetical, 2019 to 2022, 23. Like the year long average with leaves and without leaves, I'd say she's probably 50% accurate.
Okay.
But then if you hone in, I kind of did like splits month by month, and from December, no, November. We'll go November because that's when the leaves kind of really are completely off in PA.
Mm-hmm.
November through May, she's upwards of 65.
Okay.
So it's hard to count too, because if there's a hole in a tree or a nest, I counted that as not a squirrel scene.
Yeah.
So
That's not saying she's slick tree. That's just saying that you didn't see a squirrel.
I have faith in her not lying to me. But if you don't see the squirrel, it ain't there. You can't make it. So there's a lot of, in the squirrel dog world. You have a lot of people who are going to say in September, "Oh, I took my dog out and I saw 15 squirrels." That's not reasonable. That's not logical, and that's, quite frankly, in my opinion, they could be telling the truth, but I'm not going to believe it's truthful.
Yeah.
But I'll call it how it is. She's going to tree more squirrels than not. There's obviously the factors of weather and time of day and all that stuff and everything like that. But I'd like to say more often than not, when she trees, I expect to see a squirrel.
Yeah. Now you kind of said being a hound and being a little colder nosed. Do you feel that gave you an advantage, like in a lot of these NSD hunts where you're hunting a first and a second round, like that midday round?
I'd say yes, and especially in Pennsylvania with the weather too, because I think in competition hunting, you also have to have a dog that's going to gamble a little bit. If you have, I mean, no discredit to certain dogs. If you have a dog that's going to go until they find that red hot squirrel, they might come back with 2-3 squirrels in an hour and a half hunt, but that's going to drain a lot of time while they're looking for a squirrel, while the other dog's making trees too.
Mm-hmm.
And that gamble gives you that credit a lot of times, and it comes a lot of these hunts. There's hundreds of dogs that hunt in NSD and all these registries every year, and there's not a lot. There's very, very few dogs that are going to make mistakes, and a lot of these hunts come down to the wire within the last 10-15 minutes. And when you have a dog that you're confident in is going to stay treed, and you know your dog, you can call it, and you know it's going to be there when you get to it, whether right or wrong, you can take a little bit more chances and give your dog a little bit more leeway as well. But I mean, being in Pennsylvania too, you never know. One week, and we haven't really had too harsh of winters the last couple of years, but
No, we haven't.
but you never know. It could be 60 degrees in December, and then the very next week or 2 weeks later in January, you got a foot of snow and it's 10 degrees outside.
Oh yeah.
So I think they got to have that. I think having the hound, the cold nose in general, gives you a little bit of a buffer, being able to decipher the difference in temperature and weather, and whether the ground's dry or the ground's wet. It kind of gives you just a little bit more wiggle room to play with, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So now, Willow's getting a little older, and you said a little bit ago that you're looking to start something else. What are you looking for now? What's that next pup going to be?
I'm not colorblind to the fact of what it is. Obviously, I'm preferential to having a hound. I've had a couple guys contact me about dogs, but I just haven't. I haven't found anything exactly that I won't say that. There's been dogs that have caught my eye, but just with my work schedule, as well as the baby being one now,
mm-hmm.
just haven't exactly had the time, in my opinion, to be able to give a puppy justice, to give it the way and the fair shake of what it deserves.
Yeah.
So once things settle down a little bit, and I'm able to devote a little bit more time to focusing on that and honing in on giving that puppy the best chance to succeed, I'll focus a little bit more on actually looking and deciding what I want. But
Okay.
There's a lot of lines that I like, and a lot of people that I like that are breeding some really, really good dogs right now. And I'm sure it'll come down to the dog that's available at the time that I'm ready. But
Mm-hmm.
I would like ideally to have something with a little bit of hound in it,
Okay.
more than less. Just like I said, I'm preferential to hounds. When a hound comes on, and you hear that locate and it makes the hair on your back of your neck stand up. That's just what gets me going.
Yeah. Nope. Can't fault you there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, no discredit to any other dog or anything like that. I've seen a lot of curs that are out of this world that have beat me time and time again as well. Just, I guess it's a personal preference, you could say.
Yep. Well, you got anything else, Joe?
No, I think pretty much covered Willow's 8-year life story right now. But
Yeah. She's been
no,
impressive, that's for sure.
yeah, she's been. I have very little complaints, and she's, like I said, she owes me nothing and has exceeded a lot of any expectations I ever could have had, even if I knew what I was doing at the time. But
Mm-hmm.
looking back, I think not knowing what I was doing created a lot of training scars, which it's no fault of her own, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to being able to better adjust to how I train and focus my efforts going forth on other dogs.
Yeah. Like you said,
Which that all comes with time and knowledge and everything like that.
you said she was 4 years old before she really hit her stride. Well, I think part of that was probably just that's when you kind of figured out, but between the two of you, you guys kind of figured it all out together. Where now you know what you're looking for, you know what you're doing.
Yeah,
Your next one.
there's a lot of that, and then I mean, I honestly I can't even take too much credit because it wasn't even like I knew what I was doing to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a very easy starting dog. She, from the time she was a puppy, if she or when she first started treeing, there was never like a moment where, oh, I have to run to this tree because I'm worried she's going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
It was, she's going to be there when I get there 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
So even in my ignorance, she kind of, for lack of better words, she picked up the slack. She
Yeah.
really did. She made it very easy to train.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. No, like I said, I wish my first one would have been like that.
Yeah, that's what I said. I mean, for first one, she was a dream. She handles like a dream, and I've had guys look at me because I'll pull her out of the truck and won't have her collar on her, won't have a leash on her, nothing. I'll just pull her out of the truck and she'll stand right at the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And guys have looked at me and be like, she's not going to go anywhere, is she? I was like, no, she'll go there until I tell her to, or she'll stay there until I tell her to. And they're looking like, if I let this dog off the lead, it's gone. I'm not finding it till it's treed.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, she'll sit at my feet until she hears that lead snap.
That's funny, but that's awesome at the same point. Having that good of a handle on a dog.
Well, I'll say it wasn't always even like that. When she was probably 2, she was super hard headed. Like there was hunts that we went to where I wasn't getting her back unless she was treed.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I was pulling her off of a tree, I wasn't able to call her. She wasn't listening. And that's when I finally broke down and actually bought a shock collar and spent a lot of time toning her and making her realize, like, listen, if you're called, you better get here now.
Yep.
I was like, I'm not playing that game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because it kind of got to the point where, and it was I mean, it's not a funny story because I was furious, but we were in the Ohio state hunt, and she won the hunt, and there was another dog that was treed as time expired, and we were trying to search. Like, I'm respectful. If another dog's treed, I'm going to search for your squirrel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Willow was in the search area, just running around, and wouldn't listen to me. I could not get her on the lead at all, and I'm trying to look for this guy's squirrel, and at the same time, I'm messing around trying to get the dog back on the lead. And quite frankly, like it kind of ruined the fact that she won a state hunt, which should be a great accomplishment. And I was like, I have a dog that I can't control. She won't listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like the final. We're gonna figure this out one way or another.
Yep. Now, but you did, and like you said, now most people still couldn't do what you can do with her. You know.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's any accomplishment of my own. I think it was a team effort.
No, you guys have racked up quite the resume, that's for sure. And I look forward to seeing when you get a new pup and seeing how you do with it. I'm sure you'll do great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it also. And I tell people the one. I mean, it's not really a regret, but I kicked myself at the time that I got her, not knowing even what the situation was or obviously what the future held. Got her fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So looking obviously 6-7 years in the future, would have absolutely loved to have a litter of puppies off of her to something.
Yep.
Just to be able to carry on that legacy, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. That was a decision made well before anybody would have ever known what the future held or what was in store for her hunting and stuff like that. So
yep.
That's the one thing I kind of kick myself about, but it is what it is. And I said the next one, regardless of what it is, I would like to have at least one puppy out of it going forward so I can kind of have that legacy going down from there on out.
Yeah. No, I learned that from some people like early on, and kind of like there's a reason, that you don't ever get a hunting dog fixed is because what happens when it's the greatest dog you've ever owned? When it's a young dog, you don't know that. So look to the future. If it's the greatest dog you ever owned, then you're going to want to breed that dog. So.
Absolutely. And I mean, off topic too, like it's more, I think it's more in the coon dog world, but I mean, even in the squirrel dog world, a lot of guys making a ton of money off stud fees and
mm-hmm.
all this different stuff. And I know you don't, NSD starting to do it now a little bit more, but you can see the legacy and the pup winnings and which dogs hired and damn the most winning puppies and all that. So it's just a cool stat to keep track of as well.
No, you're definitely right. Especially, I mean, I know it's a lot bigger in the coon dog world and the performance and points and with PKC and even with UKC, it's like you get pups that are titling out. As a breeder, you're getting money, and that's a pretty cool thing.
I think that's cool too, because then people aren't just making crosses to make crosses. Like, people are thinking to the future and their specific breeding, trying to generate winning puppies.
Exactly.
Which is fantastic. I love that. I love that people are putting the dogs in positions, or putting the blood in dogs to give them positions to win.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also of the opinion that not only because of like Willow, but I think you can take an average dog and put it in the hands of a great handler and trainer and make it be able to see its full potential.
Oh yeah.
So when you're already having these puppies that are out of outstanding crosses and bloodlines, and you put them in the hands of good handlers and great dog men, really impacts the dog world as well.
Oh, for sure. Well, Joe, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk to me tonight. We were supposed to do this
Absolutely,
a
I
couple years
appreciate
ago.
it. Yeah, it's been a long time coming now, so I'm glad we finally were able to make time to get together and talk.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll definitely have to get together again and do some more hunting.
Absolutely, I'm hoping to be out to Auburn this year whenever they schedule their hunts, and maybe I'll see you out there. But if not, we'll have to schedule something and find a time to get together once the season comes in.
For sure. Alrighty, thank you.
Absolutely.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep them talking in the timber.